Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super Fantify. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Apocalypse Bringer, Mynoghra, Season 1, Episode 5. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So this is the episode where it's like, there's been tiny elements of darkness, but this is the rude awakening episode of like, oh, it's not all fun and games. It kind of is partway through the episode, but it's also like, oh, things get dark. I most recently had this like, oh, that's dark. In what was it? I'm the evil lord of an intergalactic empire, where it's just one of those things where I'm like, I think it's because I took such a long break from like anime for a couple years, and only in the more recent years I've started watching like a lot more anime, and because of that I just kind of forget like, anime can be dark. I think it just catches me off guard sometimes. I always forget the like juxtaposition for so many anime. Like, oh, you start off a little lighthearted, and then you start implementing some dark stuff. Like, obviously, Dan to Dan was like a stark reminder of that. So it's still catching me off guard because like this episode was pretty dark, but then it still has like the quack, wacky like tone shifts that anime typically will have. But first and foremost, we're immediately picking up after where last episode left off, and I won't lie to you. Even when we got closer to the conclusion of everything, I was still thinking about it back in my mind. I'm like, they're not gonna run. They're gonna run this back, right? To be like, yeah, this was all because I thrown it out there last episode. I'm like, not less this is like Atu like messing with them, like her doing what she. But it's like, nah, she went full dark this episode. I talk about it like in other things too, where it's just like this interesting thing. Like if Atu and Takuto were not like our protagonists, you could still look at what they do as like evil and dark, but you're more rooting for them because they are our protagonists. The story's told from their lens, so we're more likely to take their side, even though they are legitimately evil because they are on the evil alignment. And the knights and the paladins are purely on the good alignment, so they are the good guys in this situation. But it is always about perspective, because it's like, if this was another series and we were following the paladins and knights, you look at like Atu as like, oh my god, they're such despicable villains. It's not like what Atu did in this episode was like, oh my god, the most egregious thing that's ever been done in anime. Not by a long shot. And I'm not well versed in all anime, but I've seen some more like crazy, disturbing, effed up stuff in other animes. So, it's not like Atu's like at the top of the list or anything, but it's still that thing of like, yo, she was vicious this episode. And we hadn't really seen that side of her because, to be fair, her and Takujo have been like, yo, let's avoid fighting. We don't want to do that, but it's like, we will if we have to. So those guys that got impaled last episode, that was them. There's still quite a few left. And Verdell and Lonius, because Verdell's like, honestly, I didn't tell you the truth when they were whispering about like the whole witch situation up north last episode. He was kind of dancing around it. He's like, actually, I do know for a fact it really was a witch, because he kind of got that vibe ahead of time, like something's not right about Atu. So he wanted to back away, but Lonius let his pride and his overconfidence and ego get in the way. And I love that Atu would not let that go. She's like, oh, it's because of you and your worthless fate that literally you're all in this situation. She's like, we could have all walked away. You could have gone back home. I would have stayed here. It could have all been cool, could have been kosher, but you had to get too big for your britches, and you're the reason why I'm going to have to slaughter all of you. It's like, oh, let's send some messengers back. It's like, well, we can't. She literally already killed all the messengers. So what do we do? So Verdell and Lonius are like, all right, fine, we'll see this through. They charging up their weapons. Obviously, they have an alignment advantage because she's evil and because they're with good, and the holy powers they're using gives them a boost, and sort of cutting through her tentacles. And she's like, okay. But then she has two guys as hostages, and it's like, right. Well, let's see what you do. You humans, you're so fascinating. And once again, she's like giddy and laughing, be like, oh man, look at me. This is so crazy of a situation we're in. But then Atu, what's his face? Vedo and Lonius end up slashing through those guys, because it's like, right. Because she announced herself as the Calamity, which unbeknownst to them, they're like, well, if we get rid of her, we stop everything. It's like, well, they don't know, like, she's just a representative for who is the real Calamity, Takuto. But because of that, they end up like thinking like if we can kill her, like we've already cut off a few of her tentacles, all we have to do is get rid of the last two. So we'll slash through these guys if it means killing, destroying her last ones. And just in that moment before they could go in for the final blow, she summons other tentacles and they stab Verdel. And it is brutal. And he's like with the last of his strength, he's telling Lonius to run. And then like one tentacle comes out of nowhere, stabs him in the head. I was like, that is brutal. And then his lifeless body falls into a puddle of blood. And she's like, oh, like you idiots thought I only had like all those tentacles. I could always make more. That's your fault. I never said those 6 were the only ones I had. It's like, and then Lonius is like, oh my God, she was toying with us the entire time. She gave us... That's some sadistic shit, dude. To give your enemy false hope just to break them even more. Yeah, you'd almost think she was gonna let them go if she was doing such psychological damage. But it's like, no, I want to make you realize before you die how much you fucked up. It's like, that is some sadistic shit, dude. That's why I'm like, yo, if this was any other story and they were the bad guys, you'd be like, these are some sadistic villains. And they still are. It's just these sadistic villains just happen to be our protagonists. So I thought that was... You could still, like, hate, like, your protagonist. Once, you know, on the live action front, like, once again, a great example will always be Walter White. You could start out sympathetic, but then as the series goes on, you're like, oh, Walter White sucks. Me being me, I'm like, oh, I recognize he sucks. I'm still rooting for the bad guy to win, you know? So it becomes that type of situation. So same thing is kind of applicable in this regard. And so Lonius is like, all right, you need to go back. He's like, send the others to run away. Like, you guys get away and try to survive and get a message back to, you know, our nation. And we find out Atu has other ability. We already knew she was broken. We find out even more so how she's broken because... she kind of pulls a little bit of... It's not the same, but like Kimahri from Final Fantasy X has his Lancet ability. Certain enemies, once he's like uses Lancet on him, he automatically learns their techniques as an overdrive. She kind of has a similar thing where it's like when I kill someone, Kimahri doesn't operate in that regard, but in Atu's case, when she kills someone, she has it's not a guarantee, but she has a high chance of stealing their ability. So she's actually fighting Lonus with Verdel's abilities, and now she's also mocking him on top of it because like, oh, I have his memories. Remember, like, oh my God, he wanted to get you and your men back because you have a wife and kid named this and this. He wants to try and get you and all those men back. I'm like, isn't that so sweet? He was such a great knight, and now he's dead because of you. She will not let that go. She is drilling that in. I mean, once again, I said it last episode, it is his fault. He couldn't back down. Verdel told them, like, last episode, if we run into something, it's okay to run away, prioritizing our lives, but Lonus thought they were top shit, thought he was hot shit, despite Verdel being the commanding officer. You should follow your commanding officer's advice, but he didn't want to listen because he thought Verdel was backing down for no reason, and now you have to suffer the consequences for it. But he's thinking to himself, it's okay, the others got away. But then he starts hearing screams, and it's like, oh, the Dark Elves, I literally told them to wait out there and kill anyone that tries to escape. So you're not getting any reinforcements. No one's going to know what happened here. I mean, they're going to guess, like, oh, if you don't come back, you're dead. But they'll never truly know. So you're going to die here. And he tries to attack her. We cut to, like, the sun, like, it's, like, evening. The sun is setting. And she's got him wrapped up. And she's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, because of you, I'm going to go and murder everyone. Like, I will find your family and I will kill each and every one of them. And that's because of you. She's like, the fact is, the village you went to, I will go there and slaughter those people. And those people will be asking, why did this happen? And it'll all be because of you. You can be watching above from right by your God, you know, in heaven because of this. I was like, yo, that, like I said, that moment in the story, I was like, are they going to run this back to be like, yo, the fact that she's doing all this, I was like, is it psychological warfare because you're implanting this in their head? So we find out like, oh, none of this happened, but to scare them, it's like, no, it happened. And she proceeded to rip him to pieces. Like, we see his, like, lower torso later on, and it's just legs, and you're like, oh, she did it. Because you heard the tearing and the screaming, and it was like, wow. And so the dark elves are like, oh, we took care of everyone. It's like, were you serious about that? And she's like, oh, about killing all of those other people? She's like, no, of course not. She's like, I'm a pacifist. What? And the other's like, pacifist? After you literally slaughtered everyone, you're a pacifist? It's more like a, hey, I don't want to fight, but I will if I have to type of situation. So more so than anything, she's like, I got to go see King Takuto because I got to let him know something. But it's like, yo, that is like, yeah, also dispose of the bodies. So the thing she wanted to report to him about was the witch they talked about, because they're like, okay, the witch class was never a thing in Eternal Nation, so there are parallels between that game and this world, but there is vast enough differences that some of the underlying elements we thought we knew about it might not quite line up with the game. But that is something to be wary about because, you know, with her absorbing Verdel's knowledge, she learned about the witch to the north, and it is the redheaded woman we saw in the intro. What's her name? Arachino, I believe it was Arachino or something like that. Which it seems like her ability seems to be kind of like a, oh, I have an undead army. It seems like when she kills people, she like resurrected them like on a necromancy level, and she seems kind of sadistic like Atsu is. Seems like she's more willing to go through down that route than Takuto and Atu, because they want to do their things. Let's be evil and stuff, but like also let's keep to ourselves. We don't want to have to fight, but we can be barbaric if we need to be, you know. So now with that knowledge, it's like, okay, should we join forces with them? But it's also like, yeah, but, you know, just because we're all in evil alignment doesn't necessarily mean we'll see eye to eye. So, you know, because he'd even talked about it previously about why he wanted to use Isla as a upcoming hero to summon versus other heroes is because they kind of do their own thing and you just have to compete with their egos. Isla would be more likely to listen, definitely will listen more than the others. So that was like the reluctancy. So it's probably like, yeah, like just because we're evil doesn't mean that person won't try to conquer us, or, you know, we might have different perspectives on things. So they're not the go out and fight type, fight if we need to, whereas she seems like I'm going on a slaughtering spree if I need to, just for shits and giggles. So, but the whole situation has given Takuto, he's like, I'm gonna have to revise how we operate going forward, because we are gonna have to, like, it's gonna be a while before like the good, like the humans, the good aligned nation finds their way here, because they're going to be more cautious. You know, they won't know what went down, but they know enough went down that no one came back surviving this situation, so they're going to be extra cautious. So it gives them time to bolster their defenses, and, you know, so that's why he's thinking like we might also need to, instead of going with Isla, we might need to go with a different hero who's a little bit more combat orientated. So but also considering like we should probably join. The conversation last episode was about some nearby neutral territories that like maybe we should align with them if it means bolstering our strength for what's to come. We need to prepare, like, so once the throne and stuff like that and everything is like properly set up, then we'll go about meeting with this other place and see like, can we cooperate. And I thought it was actually kind of cute when Atu like finished what she would need to say. She was going to leave, but she's like, oh, about the way she's like, if I disappointed you in any shape or form, because I think she thinks because of like Takuto's like soft demeanor, she's like, you probably didn't like the fact is I kind of went went crazy. He was like, and like, that's fine. And then I love the hard cut, like we're shifting between like how he looks to us versus like how like he looks to a lot of people. I was like wondering that because I'd assume like, my assumption has continued to be that Atu sees him regularly, as like we as the audience do, versus like how the Dark Elves see him. But like the fact that she had that shift in that moment, because it is kind of interesting that like there was no like Takuto like was super on board with it. At no point did he condemn anything that Atu did. It's just kind of like, oh, he's just a regular dude that ended up in this world. But it's kind of like, I don't know if that's supposed to be the underlining darker thing where he is treating it like a game, because it kind of has a game system element to it, so he doesn't feel too bad, or maybe it's a byproduct, because sometimes with like, not necessarily like the isekai of it all, but more so like when it is one of those stories where like there's a game system, like a menu and a stat screen and stuff like that. There's sometimes like an automatic ability where like the person is able to remain calm no matter how like crazy and wild the world is. Like it could be something applicable where like he automatically has that. Like, I mean, you could also make the argument maybe his humanity switch got flipped the moment he became like, it's like, I am part of the evil alignment, so it's already encroached upon me. Because we, like, once again, we didn't really know Takuto. We saw him in the hospital playing the game, but we didn't know him before he ended up in this world. So it's probably playing into his darker instincts, and I think that's what that's supposed to mean. Like, oh, that shift into like his shadowy self, like that's who he is in this world. So he's not going to get caught up in something like. Once again, like, I am sympathetic to people that are on my side, but if you're not on my side, if you're an enemy, then I will show you no mercy, because would you show me mercy? So he tells Atu like, yo, I support you, like, I rely on you, so I co-sign everything you did. And she's like, oh, that's good to know. She's like, whatever you need me to do. And she's just doing the practice, like, shadow boxing, like, poof, poof. I'll do whatever you need me to. So that's actually really sweet. She was feeling a little like, oh, maybe I freaked you out a little bit, like how hardcore I was. But he was like, no, it's good. We're good. I trust you. So yeah, just thought that was kind of, I think that's kind of an interesting insight into showing like how far Takuto's comfortable with going. Like, he doesn't feel, because the only reason why he doesn't want to fight isn't because like, oh my god, I'm scared of fighting. It's like, no, it's self-preservation. Like, it's too much trouble. They want to make this as smooth of an operation as possible, and it was up until like, you know, the paladins came here, started shit. If they had just walked away, it was like, cool beans. I mean, I forgot to talk about that. She literally is like, oh, I'm gonna show you what life would have been like if you chose the right path. Instead, you chose the wrong choice, and now you have to suffer for it and die with the knowledge of, I'm going to slaughter your family. Even though I had no intention of doing that, this is just a self-preservation thing. But once again, I don't need to torture you to do it, but it's like, nah, I'm leaning into the evil side just to make a point. Because you will be the only one who will know this. This conversation literally lives and dies with you. Well, the Dark Elves as well, but it's just like, oh no, I have no intention of backing that up, you know? So it's interesting. We also cut to, I don't know if it's one of the nations nearby, but it's like, it might be one of the ones they're trying to join with. We see them dealing with, I don't know if those are like ogres or something, because like the head person, she's like, I think it's she, they are using like magic to wipe them out, and they're kind of dealing with and need reinforcements. So that might tie, I can only assume that's the same nearby country or whatever that Takuto talked about like cooperating with. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go from here. Like I said, that Whiplash tonally is something just, you know, I'm just kind of used to with anime, but it's still just kind of like, oh, when you go dark, I kind of like sometimes, just because of the silly nature of it, just seems like, oh, we've kind of been like fun and goofing a little bit, but there's been a little bit of darkness, but this is us kind of goofing, and it's just like, nah, we could get pretty dark if we need to. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where things go from here. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.